Mayor, can you check to make sure that's
All right. Good evening, everybody. My name is Kate Dowd. I'm the administrative assistant for the town administrator here with the town of Berlin. Mary, for years and years, has been the staff liaison, if you will, for the Parks Commission. We are in a bit of a transition. This is my second meeting here at the head of the table. So thank you for your patience as we continue with this transition. As I'm sure you're all aware, this is the Town of Berlin Parks Commission meeting. It's Tuesday, July 11th, at approximately 5:30. We do have a relatively light agenda, so I'll just move right along to agenda item 1, which is the approval of the minutes from our last meeting, which was Tuesday, May 2nd, 2023. Do I have a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
And do we have a second?
Second.
The next item is our upcoming event and activity dates. The really only event that we have coming up this summer is on Tuesday, August 1st, from 4 to 7 p.m., and that's for our National Night Out. I have been in touch with the Parks Commission members regarding a prepackaged craft to distribute at the event. I believe that our consensus was to have one option to keep things a little bit simple. We're going to go ahead with that flower thermometer, so we'll order, Mayor and I were talking about it, for the spring celebration we ordered 75 crafts, which we kind of blew through real quick. Do you want to consider upping that amount this year?
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
About, what do you think, 100? Perhaps more than 100?
Actually, money out, I think we have
More? Okay.
125.
125? Okay.
And if it's a nice night, so it will be such a nice turnout. And then we can always use the extras.
Yeah, I can also sign.
And there is.
Okay, so one craft option, 125 packages. Okay, very good. All right, before we do move on to the Heron Park discussion, I am going to turn it over to our Public Works Director, Jimmy Charles, and Public Works Superintendent, Cody Chesser. On behalf of the HAC, the Horticultural Advisory Committee, I do believe we have some members here that would like to present some updates.
Yes, we're here to present to the Parks Commission some of our future plans and plannings we want to accomplish this fall, from now up to fall. So I'll let our committee members here.
I'm Georgia McElroy. You have in front of you a photograph of our plans for Henry Park. We want this planted before National Night Out. They would like us, the community members would like this planted before. We have our list. We have chosen plants that are drought tolerant and have winter interest and are pollinators and easy to maintain. That's for Henry Park. We also have future plans, which we will bring back to you, to plant trees, more trees at Henry Park as well. If you have any questions about this, we spent quite a lot of time in discussion, the committee deciding what would go best, and you can see there's a lot of lavender, which will see us through the winter. And the sign will be redone in the background. Then moving forward to, I'm talking about the Decatur Park as well. Our plan.
The rules sign that's at Henry Park.
will
We're
be
going to do
replanted.
and refurbish that area
Right.
too, hopefully in the next couple weeks leading
Right.
up to
National.
now. We will let the sign, if you guys want to change the sign or have different rules, that'd be back on you. But we'll do the planning and make that presentation.
This is already,
It's wonderful, I just want to say that.
it's ready to go. All we have to do is get the plants and put them in. The site is prepared.
And then we'll just talk a little bit about Decatur Park and a couple more of the tree plan and ideas we have for Decatur Park too.
Okay. The Decatur Park, we have chosen 9 trees to go in the park. 3 are red buds, 3 are bald cypress, and the bald cypress, which are native to the Eastern Shore, will go along Route 113 to block some of the noise. And then we would like to get 3 Princeton elms, which are resistant to Dutch elm disease. They are a hybrid that was developed before all the American elms died, and they grow quickly and they have a beautiful canopy, and they're majestic trees. So those are the trees we are choosing for the park.
I have one question, if I could interrupt. I would love to see a tree buffer along 113. Would you have like a long-term plan for making, almost like a solid buffer along there that
Well-
these would add to?
Right, the cypresses, the bald cypress will take care of that. We could start with 3, and then if there's space for more, we certainly could add more. And I totally agree with you, it is just too loud, but the cypress will take care of that. And they grow quickly. In addition, they will be right along the ditch, and they'll be very happy.
A
So,
lot of that will go back to tree funding,
yeah,
and over the next, we'll make a tree plan for like 2 to 3 years down the road,
yeah.
and
so-
continue with the funding to provide the trees, get them in.
There are a number of trees in Stephen Decatur that need to be replaced, which is why it would be good to bring in the elms now, so that they provide the canopy once those are thinned out.
And I was gonna say, and Henry Park could also use a buffer.
Well, there is a plan, the last time I talked to Shanita, there's a plan to put murals along that fence, because we had suggested cedars along that area, but I think I'm going to hold off on that. Certainly, there need to be trees, it's just too hot over there.
So the 3 bald cypress are gonna be the beginning, and then you'll add to it as
Yes,
time
address of
progresses.
Stephen Decatur. Right.
I'm sorry. Oh, the elms, in Decatur Park, so they'll be throughout the park.
In the open areas, yes. There aren't many open areas, but there are a few trees that really do need to come down, that are just in horrible shape. So wherever there's open space, that's where they'll go. And they're really gorgeous trees.
How large are the cypress? I mean, like our sticks. I have one in my yard that I planted from Parks Commission.
We will hope to get like
Huge.
6 to 8 footers.
Yeah,
To bring them in
we
at
want,
that time.
yeah,
I like to bring in 6 to 8 footers to get them started.
right.
Wow,
And
that's
have
gonna
them-
make a big difference.
Have them.
Because they do grow so fast.
They're beautiful.
It's noise, and then that'll help with the, your breathing exhaust from 113. when you're
Exactly.
Walking that trail, so.
The more trees, the better.
Yes, that's exciting. I love that.
Well, the future plan for Stephen Decatur, if it holds true, will be to nominate the park as a national arboretum. So if we replace the dead trees with some, really good trees, and keep moving the process forward, then securing arboretum status is not impossible.
That's really cool.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
You guys are doing
Oh,
such a
one
great
other
job,
thing.
thank you.
One other thing, we have a invasive species expert on our team, and our other concern is getting rid of the invasive vines that are in Stephen Decatur Park now. We don't cover that expense?
That's something we'll work over when it gets a little colder for us.
Yeah.
We don't want to be in there at this time of year.
No, but at some
So
point,
that's a future.
Yeah.
And we'll probably come back to, when we actually create that plan and create that work plan and what we want to do, how we want to accomplish it, work with Victoria and have that, we'll come back and present again that these are the dates we'll be in here and the time we'll do it and what we're looking to accomplish.
And if you need volunteers.
oh,
And
yeah.
we need volunteers.
Our, thanks to Caroline, our site actually has a promo for volunteers to help us on our cleanup day, which is every other Thursday in the summer and probably once a month in the fall and winter, something like that. But at any rate, so we're asking for volunteers to help us do that. We'll call them a green team.
You've made an amazing difference in such a short period of time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Jimmy, do you expect meeting assistance for this, for the National Night Out Tennis Park?
We don't, planning wise?
No,
Okay, no.
Planting ones?
no, we can do the planting.
Okay.
We'll be doing the planting of the main bed,
Okay,
the tree, not the tree control.
Thank you.
all right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so the next agenda item is agenda item 3, and that is the Heron Park discussion. Included in the meeting packet that you have on the table over here, we do have all of the material that was included in last night's work session of the mayor and council. In addition to I suppose I'll call it a summary packet, if you will, of that Tom Gillis had provided the mayor and council shortly before last night's meeting as well. So both of those packets are included over there on the table. As the mayor and council has strongly emphasized their desire to really have this discussion be one of the Parks Commission. I did speak with Mr. Wiley earlier today, and I'm going to turn this over to you to have a discussion. We do have some members of the public here as well, so of course, if you would like to get their input, ask for public comment, you are more than welcome to leave this however you choose. So I will turn over to Mr. Wiley and the commission members.
Okay, I guess everybody has a different opinion of what should transpire. I personally, me, I'm much for open space, but I realize also there's other factors involved. So I guess we have to really sort it all out and listen to everybody's opinions. I like what I saw as far as what the proposed plan was presented last night. It's just, if we build with something, it looks like a nice plan. But I just, my opinion is I'd like to see that as natural as possible. They don't make land anymore, and unfortunately, again, I know it was expensive, but it takes a while for it to sit there. In my opinion, I'd rather see that than have it written about it. But like I said, that plan that was presented last night is definitely nice. But really, I need that. So, I guess everybody got a chance to look at it.
There are a lot of parts.
Can you all speak up?
Okay.
Thank you. Turn the mic.
Jimmy turned the fan down, so that should help, but yeah.
Yeah,
Just the mic. I'll turn it off.
I'm sorry, it's getting a bit bulky. I'm not sure how easy it's going to be to press around, but
Okay.
we'll try this. I'm sorry. Yeah, it's long, but once it's activated, the green light will take a moment.
We can talk about it. So, one of my takeaways, should we talk first? I know you have.
It's
your
working.
hand up.
It's working now.
Okay. Okay. The garden center, I think, is something that is a complement to what we already have in our town, and I like that idea. The rails, bike path, rails and trails and bike path, I think that's wonderful. There are parts that I have real hesitation about. Last night, the comment was made that we have seen, those of us who have been here forever, born here, we've seen the good, the bad, and the ugly in Berlin. We've seen it when it was just such a small town. The downtown wasn't a place anyone wanted to go to. It's become so much more. It's a beautiful town where we are. And we have a variety of shops. I do not want to see any kind of competition with our downtown. I believe that complementary things are what we need to do.
Finish. Sir?
I just, to clarify, oh, excuse me, oh. Let me get my tongue to work first. A question just for clarification. I'm unclear as to what the purview of the Parks Commission is with respect to this proposal. We have a park over there. Officially, is that entire property a park?
That's what it was purchased for, yes.
But I mean, okay, so
Nothing was ever really developed.
so the purview of the Parks Commission here is basically, your charge, your mandate applies to the entire property.
Yes.
So what we're discussing is liquidating all but the lagoons of park. Okay, that's what I wanted to know, because it wasn't clear to me if like your input was going to be one of what do you think of what's left, or one with respect to the disposition of the entire property. And if I understand your response, you sort of, the entire place is a park.
Yes.
And so this would be the Parks Commission's opinion on whether or not to sell all of the usable land in the park.
Right, that's
Okay.
basically what we've been
Okay.
charged with. We don't,
Okay.
yeah,
To make a recommendation.
make a recommendation on the basis of what we hear from all you, first of all.
I mean, I just wanted to make sure where we were and what the mandate and what the sort of, responsibilities were here with respect to the commission's mandate.
Decision was made to buy the park, the leading up to it, we didn't have a whole lot of lead information, did we? It was all of a sudden, it was available, and it was almost done. Matter of fact, myself and the park commissioner can't be here tonight because she's got a new grandchild. In that front row, we had a big thing justifying they don't make land anymore, like I said earlier, and we all jumped on this, and we never even had to get up. All of a sudden, the motion was made, and it was done. So I was kind of surprised about that, and I'm sure you guys were too, but we were on the board that night. But it's all of a sudden, we have a whole park, and we were glad to have it, but it surprised me how quick it went.
Did the Parks Commission submit a recommendation to the mayor and council to sell the park?
Oh, no.
Maybe that's something that should be noted in your report.
I think it's a lovely design. The questions that I have are, will it make us enough money to compensate for the huge expense that we've already laid out? Will it be enough? They're telling me, from what I'm reading and I'm understanding, that there'll be a lot of expenses in regard to tearing it down, building what we need. Will it make it worth giving up that open space that we can never get back? The town is becoming more and more populated, and I just wouldn't want to see it be, us be short-sighted by selling, something that we could, be using for our future generations. I think the biggest question in this room is, where's the skate park going to be? That property could be the ideal place for the skate park. We're having Rails to Trails come through there. They're going to build a path that will connect the entire town to this park. That means a lot more people will have access to it. If the skate park ends up there, that means that skaters wouldn't have to skate down Main Street in traffic. They could use the trail. We're also getting the bike that goes on that'll be another draw.
The other direction.
I just feel like the direction that we're heading seems like it might just be an awesome recreational facility, music venue. And that doesn't have to be done right away. It could be, down the road, but if we sell the property, we won't have that option. The other thing that comes to my mind is, will it take business away from the Main Street businesses? How many times has that happened in destroyed towns? I would love to see a garden center, but I also live and work in downtown Berlin, and I know it's not easy for businesses to be a success. We don't have it's growing, you're seeing more people there, but it isn't the Ocean City Boardwalk, and it's a struggle for a lot of people. This would be more competition. I also see a lot of empty storefronts. I see them all around where Aldi is. I see them in the Ocean City outlets. And I just don't think that we need more retail at this time. That's my thought.
Anyone else in the audience?
I have extended comments, but others should go first.
Anyone?
When you say tear it down, you're talking about the chicken place? Is that what you said when you said, I want to see it torn down?
Some of the old cinder block buildings, yeah, they're crumbling to some of them.
Okay, but
And then-
part of it is the chicken, that's what you're talking about,
Yeah.
the chicken, okay.
Go ahead.
So should I go ahead? All right, I'm Ed Hammond, I live on South Main Street. Is there a place that I should sit, or should I just talk from my chair, or, I'm a little
Chair.
here, maybe?
Yeah, that would be the best place.
Uh,
Yeah,
Work.
because there's a
Yeah, does it
microphone you
work?
can use.
Okay, I would be prepared to, well, I was planning to come to this meeting for a while back, envisioning that we would have a discussion about the skate park in particular, but we suddenly took a kind of major turn. When was it? The beginning of last week. I'll just, well, the one thing that I will say about the skate park now, unless we're going to go into that discussion in earnest, would be that by far, in my mind, the most logical place for it to go, where it would create the least environmental issues, where there is a site that already may be suitable for a skate park, is clearly Heron Park. And the other options don't work for various reasons. I won't go into that in detail, but let me just say that. If you take down any nice big old trees at Stephen Decatur Park, call me up. I'll come over with the tractor and get the trunks. But I think right now, with what's going on with Heron Park, there's a lot of frustration around town, and the feeling that this issue has been moving around in circles for a long time, and so there's a general feeling of a lot of frustration. I think that a lot of that stems from, again, I speak fairly frankly, so I'll go ahead and say it, from the kind of style of some of the town commissions and the town council, where they just sit there like rocks, and people come in one after the other and say what they are interested in, what they would like, and there's no response. So people think about it, they come in, they want to say what they think is a good idea, and there's just dead silence, and they never hear anything back. So what I think is that a key thing that has been missed, and there is a claim that has been made that if you look at the written record is simply false. That the Heron Park Committee was engaged in a process that was to determine the use of the land in the sense that we are now. talking about selling all of the usable land. The Heron Park Committee, you can look at all of the minutes that are available online, was focused on use of that property as a park. And it was furthering, plans for signage, for access improvements. The one non-park use that was discussed in any detail was the YMCA possibility, which evidently did not work out economically. So the idea that the whole years-long process of the Heron Park Committee having been one in which we considered the sale of all usable land in the park and decided what the town wanted to do with that land is false, because that's simply not what that committee did. So what I would say is that we need a process of citizen engagement, not rocks on a podium, not replying to what people say, but a process of citizen engagement. I think that there has been considerable headwind for the proposal that's presently on the table, and it doesn't appear to me that it is going to prove to be a viable one if it gets to the point of a commission vote. And so now what's happened is that I'll skip ahead a little bit. And let's say something else. I have no doubt as to the earnest desires and earnest efforts of the members of the subcommittee that were negotiating with the proponent of this proposal. But they do not have the skill set to negotiate with the proponent of this proposal. And it shows in the result. We can do a lot better than what's in this proposal, both in terms of economic outcome and in terms of incorporating the public uses that we want in that area. If there are a lot of people in town who want a skate park, let's do it. This is the place to do it, and this is how we can do it. If there's a lot of people in town that still want a recreational facility, this is the last potentially place that we could do this sort of thing in the town. And I also hear a lot of people saying they want the outdoor recreation aspect of it. And people will say, well, the town's retaining 44 acres. Come on. I mean, we're retaining waste lagoons. I mean, I know that they've improved and I know that people can work on them, but it's not 44 acres. Most of that is water that you can't go in, right? So let's be realistic. But what we can't do, I think, is to just give up because everybody's been frustrated by this process. Lord knows, I mean, I feel frustrated. But what we have to do is to make lemonade out of the lemon that we've kind of gotten. And so my proposal for what the town needs to do here is one, there's copies back there, and I've distributed it online, is to form a 1-year time-limited committee of local Berlin citizens who have education and experience in architecture, planning, engineering, to go and to look at that entire property and to go and to meet around the town and to collect people's ideas and to give them a response if the ideas are not practical. And to prepare a plan within 1 year for the rezoning of this property so that, for example, if there are elements of it that we ultimately want to sell for commercial use, we ensure that those are fit for development and we rezone them commercial and we sell them at a commercial rate. And if they're not, the deep discount that's in this plan. And if there are areas of particularly of parcel 410 which by the way would only be a garden center for a very short period of time before it got redeveloped into something else, when it was rezoned and upzoned, right? If there are areas of parcel 410 that we want to keep, that we want to use for a park, we can do that. But in order to do that, we need to develop a coherent plan that makes sense. And my proposal is here. These are sort of draft terms of reference for what that committee would look like. And I think that at the end of the day, I'm pretty sure, at the end of the day, we would come out with something, one, where we're going to get more value for the land that we do decide to sell. And two, we're going to be able to put in the uses that we want, that the townspeople want in that area. And three, we're not going to have the town government and the town council just ignore people and not, come back. The part of the charge in the terms of reference here is that if multiple people come and they say, we want a solar farm there, if the committee looks into it and says, look, this is not practical for several ways, they're going to give those people a response. Treat them decently. Engage with people rather than just solicit their comments, not say anything, and then go ahead and do what you were going to do anyway, which is the situation that we're dealing with right now. So I hope that y'all will take a look at my terms of reference, or the idea of putting this into a fast redevelopment process using Berlin local people with the right training and experience to rezone that whole property and to create the right balance of uses.
So
Because I think that's
you're
going to...
proposing that it be developed just by...
well, I think, look, I wouldn't presuppose the outcome of this group because it would include a lot of people from a lot of different areas. My sense of this is that, and so this is just a guess, is that you have a lot of people in town that want to continue with public uses, and you also have a lot of people in town that say, get rid of this debt, we don't want to be paying on this anymore, kind of cut and run. So my sense would be that, for example, maybe parcel 57, although they should erase the parcel lines and redraw, but that perhaps part of the area could be sold, but part of the area also retained. And the other thing is that for reasons that nobody's been able to explain, the town council ruled out any residential development. Won't entertain the notion. I don't think that necessarily makes sense. So I think my hunch, again, not trying to, preclude whatever outcome like that committee came to, is that it would probably be a mix of things, as opposed to now where we're basically selling it all except the undevelopable part, and we're calling it a park. And then there's the venue, which I'm sorry, there's just extremely conflicting signals about that. There's discussion among the people from 200 to 1,000 people, the venue capacity. The town council members are saying it's going to be owned and operated by the town. The proponents of this thing are posting on Facebook that they're going to give it to us. I mean, but it's only going to be 20 to 200 people. The information is just completely discombobbled out there about this. It's just a mess. So anyway, I think we need to do it ourselves, and I think that we can find the people here that have the skills to do it ourselves. And who knows, at the end of that process, maybe the proponents of this proposal may have a renewed role. Who knows? If at the end of the day this committee decides that there's going to be a chunk of the land that should go over to the kinds of uses that they've proposed. But I also rather suspect that there's a chunk of the land that a very large proportion of the town would think could be pretty useful for public uses. I talked too long, but Thank you very much, and these are around.
Thank you.
Does anyone else have any? Ma'am?
Marie Dillon. If it's only 20 to 200 people that are going to this supposed amphitheater or stage or whatever, why do we need a 60-foot road? I mean, that's one big question I have about this project. I'm totally against pretty much all of it. I think that anything that you recommend should include that that money that you get for that property pays off our debt. If it doesn't, and it's going to go to improve that property, then you are not accomplishing anything. And that, to me, is the key to this. The whole point of selling this, I thought, was to resolve the debt service. And if it isn't that, then it's up to the town to figure out what they want to do with it, and not to the Gillises, who have a great plan, but it's their plan. It's not the town's plan. And that's the key here. You all have great ideas, but if you go with this and he changes his mind halfway through, you have no say in what goes on, regardless of what they say. You really don't. And if he chose to sell, flip it and sell.
Exactly.
What are you going to do? That property is worth way more as a commercial property than it is zoned residential. I'm sure you heard, we bought it at a commercial price, turned it into residential, which lost money. Now we have it at residential, and we're going to turn it into commercial, and we're losing money again. I mean, all of this, it just seems like what people have talked about is to stop, demolish what you can of that building. If it's not enough, then it'll just have to be until you get the money to do it, and then go from there. Figure out what you actually want, because all of these ideas are great, but nobody's like solid on any of them. You don't have like a real good idea of what the town people want. As far as I'm concerned, they should sell the whole thing. It's, to me, a dangerous place for children. I don't see how you can put a skate park in there and think that that's safe. You've got bars on both sides. You've got a auto place with a bunch of junk there, and you're going to put kids back there and think that they can be unsupervised. And no way for the police to be able to monitor. I mean, that has been my concern the whole time. That place is deserted. And it's wonderful for nature walking and all of the things you talk about. But you put this project in, and what happens to that nature? You're just taking away from what you say you want it for. And that's where I see so much conflict in all of this, that I think that the best process would be to take your grant, use it, get rid of the building as much as you can, and that can be done strategically, I'm sure. If it's not enough to take it to the ground, you could take it to however it would be safe. I'm sure that there's engineers that can do that. And then go from there. And then you can plan. And by then, maybe get a consensus of what everybody wants. That's how I don't know, that's how I see it.
Can I ask the question?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, you're gonna sell these parcels, all these parcels. Once they're sold to a person, do you have control over what they do with that parcel or land? They can do anything, right? Is that true?
Zoning's gonna, depends on.
I mean, you have to, can you tell them, okay, if I sell you this, you can't put this, you can't put that, you have to put this, or they can just say, no, we're
Well,
gonna
they
do
re-
this and that's it.
Pretty much regulated by what the zoning was when it was all done and smoke clear. So, right now, I don't even know what the true zoning of that piece of property. I mean, it would have to be rezoned some of it anyway if we went with selling some of it.
Right.
Yeah. But it's,
So it seems like if I buy a house and the person says, well, you have to decorate it this way, they say, no, it's mine. I can decorate it any way I want to.
well, to a certain point, but with zoning, I mean, there is controls too. Granted that sometimes they slip by, but, you know, so, but as far as, I think Mr. Hammond brought up about people coming out to the meeting, I get stopped a lot on Main Street, I'm around town a lot, people's suggestions. I say to them, please come to the meetings. Telling me works, lets me know, but I feel if you've got something to say, and Mr. Wigg has been good about coming and voicing his opinion, whether we agree with it or not. And we need more people to come out to the council meeting and to this parks meeting. We have very few turnout. This is the only time I've ever seen this many people at a parks meeting. And it's nice to see it. But we have to have input from you. And like you say, I get stopped on Main Street if I'm helping my wife at the church mouse, somebody will come in and tell me something. But you need to come and tell the council, not us.
I'd like to mention that 5:30 is not really a time that's good for people that work. I mean, if they're just getting off, they're not going to come to a meeting. And that's just out there for why you may not have attendance. I don't work, so it doesn't bother me.
I can talk from here. I wanted to address Mr. Hammond's comment about when people speak and the council doesn't respond. I don't know that that's the right setting for that sort of back and forth, because it is a meeting and there's a control over it. Which raises the bigger question is that we need another format, like a town hall or something where there can be this back and forth between the council and people. But I'm not sure a council meeting is the right place for it. And also I wanted to maybe ask Mr. Gillis if the grant, you know, the $500,000 demo grant, isn't it tied to a project? And that it's not like we just can take it and do $500 worth of demo and that's it. I think it has to be part of a bigger project.
No, that's not the case. The grant,
That's not?
500,000 is the amount of the grant, and it is specific to demolition at that site,
Okay,
but it does not have to be part of a bigger project, no.
okay. So there's no, well, okay.
If I could just, in a sense, I agree with you. I'm offended by the lack of response from the council when you have public input. I think it's kind of it makes the public input a joke. But I do actually agree with you, and that's why, like, sort of my proposal is one of setting up a group that first has subject matter expertise, and unfortunately we don't have the specific subject matter expertise to engage in negotiation with by this region standards, very big developer on the mayor and council. And second, to have that engagement, right? To have that engagement with
The meeting would go
people.
on too long.
No, well, this would be a commission that exists for a
Okay.
year, and it would deliberately meet in different parts of town. It would be prohibited from sitting on a podium. It would have to sit in a round table with people and engage with them.
I
So-
don't think we have, well, personally, I don't think we have the individuals. We need a
Okay.
town planner, somebody that can look at the
You
entire.
know, but we have people that would volunteer who are, as a trained planner, I would agree with that. But
there's too many-
we
there's too
have
many special
engineers,
interests.
we have architects, we have engineers, we have architects, we have planners, we have skilled people who are in this town, who are from this town, who I believe would be willing to volunteer their time in a public interest effort to have a more favorable outcome there. That's the idea.
I have a question about the 500,000. Why are they not spending that money now and get one demo they can get done?
That's part of what they're trying to get to. is
Because when I
decide-
read the proposals, they seem to be, and you know, Gillis, for instance, would be out there and saying, is this cleanup going to cost me $2 million or $500,000? To me, being in the paper, it's really unclear what the impact of that $500,000 versus the amount to do the demo would be, because the demo could be under $500,000 from when I see it. I don't know what the number is.
And neither do we until we're able to put it out to bid.
So why wouldn't they put that out
Unfortunately, at
now
this
and get it out of
point-
this picture?
I'm sorry, are you ready for me to answer the question?
Yes, I am.
At this point, we don't know whether we're going to do a bid to demolish as much as we possibly can, or if we're going to do a bid to spot demolish, to pick a very specific area of the project and do the demolition there. It makes a big difference when we bid it out, and how the specs are written, and then, of course, how the contractors look at it and.
But then couldn't it be an either or? Because it's based on the amount of money for the bids. They do it with highways all the time.
Because we don't want to demolish the whole thing, if as it turns out, we only needed to do part of it. Because the ultimate project can make use of the remaining. It's just too up in the air exactly what will happen with it later.
Are there other bidders by this way against Gillis? Is there other bidders?
There was one additional project that was submitted at the time that the proposals were put in.
I'd like to, I was going to try to respond to a lot of these questions, if I may. Is that possible? Is that okay?
Yes.
Okay. Is it all right if I come up here and... Jack, did you have anything else you want to say tonight?
I'm just listening right now. I might, you never know.
You never know.
Depends on what you say.
Well, all you're going to hear is the same thing I said last time.
Okay, well, I responded to that.
So I'd like to try to address some of the questions and concerns. Number one, when someone says that 44 acres is not usable, I don't know if they've walked that or not, but I would suggest that it's very usable. And I have had vendors or people, because one comment in response to this was, I'll just do the whole thing, just buy the whole thing. But that's not what the plan is, and that's not what anybody in this community should want. But there's a lot of usable land there. In fact, you can use it for aquaculture, hydroponics. And true thing, I've had the people from Procter & Gamble down who are in charge of quote unquote what's next. And there is an alternative use for the ponds that's not getting used right now. I work for Shell Farms. I understand poultry processing and wastewater treatment. I get that. I understand that. I've been involved with wastewater treatment on a municipal level and on a poultry processing plant. So the rails and trails were fully in, the good, the bad, the ugly, I like that one. Uses now, well right now we have uses that we have a 9 or 10 acre parcel that's not being used at all. It's sitting there deteriorating as we watch. Our proposal repurposes that building. We have another 11 acres that's sitting there being used by the Public Works Department and the Cropper family. So right now when we're talking about change of use, you're not using it as it is now. Is there opportunity there? Everyone seems to like the garden center. That came along in the process of response to the RFP. But I just need to understand maybe the process, and that is the community has done 8 different studies for this property, and we have outlined the 8 different studies. So whether they're environmental studies or use studies, so the town has expressed, and we've been listening, what they want to have at this property. And we've tried to almost specifically aim right at those uses. So every use that we've heard, and I'll rattle through them real quick again, if you like. I don't know if anybody has these things, but what we heard was, and again, these are all reflected in the RFP, and we have bound by the boundaries of that RFP. It's in a document that was published in the fall of 2021, I believe it was. Solar field, EV charging stations, park pollinator garden, embrace the arts, visual performing and culinary, skate park, entertainment venue, simple at first, Lawn chairs, grass slopes can grow 20 to 200 people. It's not going to have much bigger capacity than that. This is not an amphitheater. This is not Meriwether Post Pavilion. It's not the Freeman Stage. Open spaces retain the north 44 acres. Specialty shops, boutiques. Incorporate pedestrian and bike trail. Do not compromise downtown. Promote downtown from this location. Agritourism, educational. I don't know how many people have been on a field trip with their children or grandchildren to a farm. We can embrace that. Eateries, that's something that was in the RFP. Think destination. If you've been to Old Town Alexandria, you have a plethora of choices. People like choices. Sometimes they don't like to eat at the same restaurant over and over again. The Torpedo Factory is something that was brought up, and we're fully involved with that. Central Kitchen, a catering kitchen. We have one vendor we've been talking to that would want a centralized location for their catering kitchen. This could be educational, and it could be a business at the same time. Pet-friendly pet park, a community garden. Make income producing and job producing. I keep hearing that, and as it sits right now for the last 7 years, it hasn't been very income producing or job producing. We got, if you have the time, and I would encourage you to look at a place that we got a chance to explore while we were on a scuba diving trip in Cabo San Lucas called Fiora Farms. It's a farm-to-table facility there. It's just unbelievable. We got so much inspiration from that. Museum, art gallery, children's theater, Ocean City Art League at Desire. We have a document that would support that. Mini golf, wedding venue, a large event space, doesn't exist in the town. Rock climbing, road course, arcade, park and ride trolley to downtown, food trucks, innovator food hub, shared kitchen, commissary test kitchen, bike pedestrian trail along the ways. That's what we heard. And honestly, again, I think you may have seen this, but challenging for us is we want to embrace every one of them. Every one, and it can be done. Somebody says we've spent enough money on this property. Well, I've always heard that when you're digging a hole and you want to get out, you stop digging. And right now, for the last 7 years, I believe the town is spending a couple $100,000 a year on this. And I think, and I agree with the comment that was made about reduction of debt. When you go to settlement on a house, you have to pay the bank off first. When you go to settlement on a bond, and Mary, I may be misstating this, but when you go to settlement on a bond and the bond, there's a lien on that property, I think you're supposed to pay down towards the debt. So our proposal was actually, didn't include a road. It didn't include a lot of public expense at all. We thought this would be a win-win because it could become income producing, job producing, and pay down the debt. We had the same goal on that, and I agree with that. The lagoons were man-made. They can be man-unmade, and they're all alternative uses for the lagoons if you let us have a shot at it. And I can think of 4 to 5 to 6 right off the bat. Skate park. A skate park only takes 14,000 to 18,000 square feet. That's less than a half of an acre. If we're able to provide parking, it's even less impervious surfaces that would have to be created to create a skate park. It can be shared use. Residential. We were told not to use residential, period. The end, do not bring it up. So we're, again, in a box is what our proposal was for. Repurposing buildings. There is an existing building there. We built a lot of it, and I'm very familiar with the building. There's a lot of building there that can be repurposed, but to respond to one comment about demolition, you have to be very specific. Mary's job is going to be to create with an engineer a set of documents that provides a scope and a drawing of what's going to be demolished. You can't just go say, take that out and take that out. If you're going to do the public process, which you have to and you're bound to, you're going to have to hire an engineer. You can't just go get a demolition price. The city, the towns and the jurisdictions and the municipalities have to go through a process. But I will say this to Mr. Hammond and some of the other places, and I'm being a little bit boasting here, if you will. We stopped last night for that. There's nobody that's sitting in this room that has repurposed as many buildings as I have, and I can count up to 1 million square feet of repurposed buildings that we've done, some of which have been in this town. So there's nobody that has more experience from having built this building and repurposed other buildings on the Delmarva Peninsula. Whether it's Easton or Berlin or Salisbury or you name it, we've done it. Ocean City, whatever. So I agree with also, in our original proposal, we did not have a public road or a city expense. We had a public way to get to the lagoons and to the parks. There's plenty of uplands in that 44 acres. So when someone says it's unusable, I'll take it, but that's not the common goal here. We believe that the park ought to be a part of the city. Again, I mentioned about the payoff on the bond. We're in agreement with it. We totally agree with that. Relieve debt. Again, one of the goals is not only to do something and find a purpose for this, it's to make jobs and tax base revenue from this. When you say that, when someone said the town's plans versus our plan is the town's plans. Well, all we've done is, respectfully, is copy and pasted what the town's plans are. When we were sitting in this room in May of 2022, this room was full of people that supported our plan and not the residential plan. I'm not a residential developer, so thank you. They were supportive of our plan at that time. There are some dangerous components on that property. And when you refer to the grant, I can pretty well assure you, knowing that what goes on underground, that there's structural foundations, there's underground utilities, there's things that you don't see. So I used the example last night, when you hire a contractor to cut a tree down, and one guy is $500 and the other guy's $1,000, you're probably going to want to take the guy that's $500. So he cuts the tree down and he leaves the stump. And my point in saying that to you is, you have to be very specific when you price out the demolition, and you have to evaluate the scope of the demolition. You've got to be careful with that. And there is so much that's underground, and I think some people may think that when I say behind the stockade fence, I know it's behind the stockade fence. It's not an environmental issue, it's a structural issue, and there's foundations, structural foundations that have 1-inch rebar, 6 inches on center each way, 2 mats. I mean, I get it. I'm going through the same thing right now with an industrial building in Easton that we're involved with, that we're doing for Talbot County Health Department. So, yes, there's no one here in this room, and I say with a lot of confidence, that has repurposed as many buildings. So the question becomes, I guess, what do you want to do with this property? We presented a plan which has a select demolition. I think you have copies of it in front of you. I caution you on the demolition part of that. I think there's a narrative in this package about our vision for the entertainment center and the garden center vision. If you would like to hear my wife talk about that, that is totally her passion on that. She would love to come up here and talk to you about it. We also have outlined some of the projects that we've done where we've jump-started grants. The town of Berlin does not have $1 million or more to build a 60-foot wide street, and I'm not sure on the plan that you have in front of you, that's the alignment of the street that you want, anyway, in the long term. So I've outlined, if you have this, I don't know if you guys, I think you might have this narrative that we had last night with you. We have leveraged millions of dollars by donations of grants, and that was our plan to do here. We also have in our packet a valuation, and I would challenge anybody to tell us how you get to a higher value when you have your own third-party real estate appraisers. You have a grant, you have a bid from the competitor of Natelli that was slightly more than ours, but they put the responsibility of all the demolition, including the public works buildings, on the town. So anything above $500,000 would go to the town's expense. Ours is totally different. We're going to take responsibility for any demolition beyond that $500,000 grant. There are risks, and in the proposal that you have in front of you, the draft contract from the town, there are a lot of restrictions on that. And someone keeps saying that in 7 or 10 years we're going to put a high-rise on there. Or I don't know what the vision is of that, but I can fully assure you that if how sweet it is, and some of the other places that we've modeled this after have had a long lifetime. I can tell you that my wife Sandy went into depression when Village Greens closed up because she enjoyed going there so much. So I would like to, if I may, ask if there's anybody in the public that has any questions, because I'd like very much to respond to them if I haven't answered any questions.
I have a question. In the proposal that you have now,
Would a skate park fit?
Someone has said that the lagoons are all wetlands. Would a skate park fit? A skate park takes 1/4 of an acre to 1/2 of an acre. We have an expert here. We've Googled it. He's Googled it. It's about 1/2 of an acre. At the most, it's an acre. But the advantage that you have in this location, and I never understood why the skate park, this wasn't the first location, is you already have parking. Now, granted, I mean, in my vision of this, you have families going to the garden center while they've sent their kids over to the skate park. But will it fit on this? Absolutely. It's a tiny speck.
Where would it fit? Would it be?
That's beyond my pay grade. That would be something that the skateboard park committee would have to look at. There are experts in that. I can tell you that the square footage, it works very easily, along with a public entertainment venue and some of the other things we've talked about. You can have it all if you want, but somewhere along the line, you have the journey of 1,000 miles starts with the first step, and right now, basically, I see the town is hovering on ideas because we've been talking about this through 7 studies and 7 years of discussion. And I would like to respond to questions if there's any that I can address.
I'm just asking because the town is demanding a skate park somewhere.
Well, and it's perfect.
And we need it.
It's perfect. It's perfect.
So,
I'm going to yield to the skate park committee, but this can cross-pollinate and work, pollinator garden. This can work together. And I can assure you in 3 to 5 years, we'll all be standing on the corner saying, this is the greatest thing that's hit Berlin in a long time. It's a massive project. This is highly risky. And it's a $12 to $15 million project overall. Just saying.
But before we do turn it over to questions from Mr. Gillis, I would like to ask the commission members permission to do that. This is your discussion, so I would like to just get their approval to do that first, if that's okay.
I have one question that this just pops into my head. I don't know how this even works. Is it possible, Mary, to take something like this to referendum so that because I feel like the purchase of this property is what upset taxpayers so bad.
It is possible.
Because to me, it seems like a question for taxpayers.
It is possible to take it to referendum. It has to be very, very carefully thought out. The question, and you've all seen ballot questions that raise more question than they easily answer. So the process of taking it to referendum is basically exactly like any election. You have to open the voter roll, close the voter roll. It's exactly like any other election, with the exception that you don't have candidates on it. But the question itself has to be very carefully worded so that people can understand it and that it gets you the answers that you're looking for. It can be done, but it's not easy.
But would there be an expense associated with having the referendum or vote for the town?
The expense of running an election is actually fairly low. It's for a Berlin election, it's probably less than $3,000. So the expense in and of itself is not a big deal.
A comment on that, I mean, there was at least one comment at the commission last night opposing the idea of a referendum, saying that it would pit people against one another. My view of that is that it would certainly be, in my view, improper to have a referendum question on a specific proposal by a specific developer. I personally don't favor a referendum, but if we were to go in that direction, it has to be a step back sort of question about the overall disposition of the land, because that's kind of the mistake that we made with this RFP to begin with. We put the cart before the horse. We didn't decide what we wanted, and we put out an RFP that said anything. And Mr. Gillis is experiencing some of this problem when he complains that you said you wanted restaurants, but now you don't want restaurants. You know, it didn't preclude, residential, but now the town says in the committee that was meeting in secret that they don't want any residential. So we.
Mr.
yeah,
Hammond, I
we
really
didn't
resent the
decide
idea that you're
what
talking
we.
about secret meetings.
This
That's
is
crazy.
not
Can
forum to have this
Excuse me, if the
conversation.
meeting is not open and the meeting records are not available under the Public Information Act, it is a secret meeting. Yeah, that is very simple. So you are incorrect about that, Mr. Gillis. But
I would go to Mary on that.
sorry, going back to the referendum thing, so if it were a referendum question, I would certainly want it to be one that's centered on whether or not these properties would be sold, and then from there, you get into the question of, the mechanics of the process, and not one proposal by a private interest, right?
I would agree with that, and that's kind of what I was getting to, is that's why the question has to be so careful. It should not be a question of, is this project what we want to happen? Because this project, even in and of itself, still has too many questions. Up until the point that the plans go to the planning commission and start being actually approved, many changes can be made. So you really can't ask the voters to examine that. It does have to be more of a broad question as to the disposition. And my recommendation to the council was not to go in that direction, partially because it is so very difficult to word such a broad question.
I understand that.
You can't give a laundry list of, do we want these things?
It's not a yes or
very
no,
hard.
yeah.
I'm not saying that it cannot be done, but I'm saying it has to be very, very carefully done.
I know what people tell me, and that's how I'm forming my opinion, but I just wonder.
And Mary, would the town be obligated to carry out the decision, if you will, resulting from the ballot or the vote?
The town would be obligated to pursue the response of the ballot. The example that I give for when that may not actually pan out is a number of years ago, the town did a referendum question regarding the sale of the electric utility. The referendum question was answered yes, so the town began that process. But at the end of the day, the developer that was most strongly pursuing it withdrew. So even though the answer was yes to sell the electric utility, ultimately, obviously, that didn't happen for reasons beyond the town's control at the end of the day.
All the information that's been out there, there were some requests for proposals, even the responses, this is our response, it's a very thorough public process, and it's been out there. I didn't just dream up these studies that the town has done. I went to the town's website, and again, we copied and pasted most of the studies and evaluated the environmental studies, the phase 1 environmental study, the phase 2 environmental study. We've had the engineer's assessment study. We've had the wants and needs study. There's 7 or 8 studies that the town's already conducted, and I have zero idea how much that costs, but I can tell you it's not free. I mean, you've already, again, spent $300,000 on a cleanup. You've spent tens of thousands of dollars on studies. You spend a couple $100,000 a year or so, and you run the risk of a time clock. You run the clock at this point. Nobody thought it was going to take this long, but you're running the risk at this point on the time clock of the grant, which I believe is June of 2024. If I'm wrong, correct me. But you can't just call up Bob's Demolition Company and say, I want a price on the demolition. Well, demolition on what? The Natelli proposal included demolition all the way back around, including all the public works buildings that are there, plus all the structures, the live haul shed foundations, the loading docks on the public works property. I can venture to guess there's tens, if not $100,000 or more of structures on that property alone, not including the buildings and their foundations, that will go way beyond the $500,000 grant. You're running the clock out, and you run that risk, but not knowing which direction you're going to go in the demolition process. But I would like to possibly respond if anybody has any questions of myself or Sandy, if there is any public questions. I'd be glad to try to respond to them.
Is that okay with members?
I don't think any of all those studies were done for sale purposes. I think some of the environmental studies were done because of incidents that had happened with the plant. I think that's a little misleading.
Well, respectfully, I would say that when you own a piece of property, you need to know from lenders, people or lenders, you have it's a public way. If there's environmental issues, I think the town would need to know that, so I'm agreeing with you on that particular case. But if you're going to package this for sale, the first question that the developer or the respondent to the RFP is going to ask is, what kind of environmental surveys have you done on this property? And I for one, that was one of the first questions I asked, knowing a lot that I do about poultry processing plants. That was one of the first questions I asked is, what's your environmental assessments? So you're packaging the property for repurposing, and that could be either for demolition, because you can't begin demolition if you have hazardous waste on the site. So in order for you to spend your grant, the respondent to the demolition is going to ask, what are your environmental issues on the site? Do you have any environmentals? Do you have any asbestos? Do you have any lead paint? What kind of environmental things do you have? So the town needs to know that. So it's whether it's packaging it for itself or whether it's packaging it for sale or partial sale. So I think we're kind of both right on that. It's preparing.
But you're going to have an environmental study done anyway, aren't you, or whatever it's called?
The environmental studies that were done, a lender or a responder can't take an environmental audit that was done 2 years ago or 3 years ago. It has to be updated. So that's a lot easier task, updating the environmental audit, than it would be if you're inventing the wheel, if you so. And the same thing applies to a real estate appraisal. No lender or no responsible lender is going to take a real estate appraisal that was done, I'm not sure what today's rules are, 6 months ago or longer. So there's a shelf life on both of those types of pieces of documents, and they're not free.
Right, but if you find something in that environmental thing, then we would be responsible for cleanup of that, is that correct?
Well, right now, I'm believing, and again, only the time will tell, if there's a huge environmental issue there, I'm going to have to, at my expense, I'm going to have to update the environmental audit. That's going to put a cloud on anybody to bid or build on it. So we would, at that point, if you look at the draft contract, one of the contingent items in that is an updated environmental audit at our expense. And I do want to say too, when you're talking about some of these things that go on, I mean, one of the big elephants in the room in a project like this is State Highway Administration. First question they're going to ask is, have you done a traffic study? That's a $20,000 expense there. That's our expense. But guess what? You can't do a traffic study until school's in session. So we've already missed the spring's window of traffic studies, and that'll have to be done in the fall to accommodate. There's 4 entrances on this property to Old Ocean City Road. I'm old enough to remember when that was Old Ocean City Road. But that being said, there's 4 entrances. I already met with State Highway Administration. You're going to have to get rid of 2 of them. I mean, so 2 of them are going to go away. But they're going to have to decide about the acceleration lanes, the deceleration lanes, and the paving specs, et cetera, based on the traffic uses and the traffic study. But I can't start that process until September now, because it has to be done while school's in session for that particular location. Then you have to design it, then you have to submit it to the State Highway Administration, then they comment on it, and they thumbs up or thumbs down, or can you change this? That's the process. That's a 3 to 6 month process in itself. Mr. Hammond had a question.
I believe the Phase 2 environmental study that you've referenced is not actually on the town website. If it is, I haven't been able to find it. What's the purpose of that? What's the purpose and date of the study?
What's the purpose of what?
What was the purpose and date of that study?
I don't know what the purpose.
So what was it like a Phase 2 for recreational use?
I don't know the purpose or the date. But the Phase 2 environmental audit is right there on the Heron Park studies. There's 7
There's a
studies.
Phase 1.
There's a Phase 1 and a Phase 2 and a summary sheet from EA, is it EA Associates?
And those are for recreational use, right?
They're about the building, Mr. Hammond. They're an environmental study about the building.
But the assessments are performed with the end use.
No, There was a, it's a six, the document.
This is actually.
If I may answer your question, the document, the big document that you're responding to is a 600 and some odd page document. And it is responding to, they've done some observation wells, they've done some testing.
This is not my question.
You asked me what the phase 1, phase 2.
No, I asked what the purpose.
I'm trying to
The studies are for.
I'm trying to answer your
No,
question.
I'm not asking what the general purpose of an
I'm trying to
environmental
answer your
study is. I'm asking what the foreseen purpose of the land was when the study was undertaken. Because the phase 1 is a phase 1 study for use of the land for recreational purposes.
That's not true.
I
So,
don't think we can answer that question
Okay.
tonight. I just.
I'll try to
Let's move on,
answer.
let's move on.
I've read the study, Mr. Hammond, if you'll let me answer it. It's to identify environmental hazards.
I'm not asking what the purpose of an environmental study is. I know what the purpose
You
of
just-
an
you just
environmental
answered the
study is.
question.
The question is, the environmental study itself will be performed with an end use in
No, sir.
mind.
No,
Right,
sir.
what is that
No,
end
sir.
use?
No, sir.
The phase 1.
The phase one-
you
I'm
can look
answering
at it
your
and it
question
says
if
the
you'll let me
Phase 1
answer it.
study for the purpose of recreational use.
I'm sorry, Mr. Hammond. It is not. You're totally wrong on that.
We'll look at the
Because
study. We'll have to look at it. Let's move
Let
on.
me answer my
I think we
Let's-
need to move on from
yeah,
this.
let's move
It's
on.
not going to get
So the
answered
question
tonight.
is,
It
you-
is a meeting of the Parks Commission.
Okay.
You said that you need to update the
Yep.
phase 2 repeatedly.
Yep.
And that you may ultimately have to do a phase 3.
Correct.
Right. These are linked to obtaining funding, correct? You have also said that if there are additional demolition costs beyond the 500,000, which we suspect that there will be, that you will pay for that.
That's correct.
If the revised level 2 or level 3 environmental studies come back and indicate that an additional $1 million in mitigation is necessary on the property, are you saying that you're going to pay that, or are you saying that
May
you're
I
going to come back?
please try to
and-
answer your question, Mr. Hammond? Please allow me to answer it.
I just
You-
finished the question.
move on.
Yeah, let's
move
Yeah, I really think
They're
this is
not
not
gonna
going to
agree.
get answered tonight.
Yeah, we've got to go in.
No, but it's a very important question. If
But it's not one
the
that can be
revised
answered this
environmental studies indicate that a large amount of remediation is going to be necessary, who is going to pay? That's part of the contract or not part of the contract. And that's something that we deserve clarity on. And we've had a text exchange on this. You've already told me the answer. You've called it a deal breaker.
It
But you
is.
don't want to say that in public.
Mr. Hammond, if you would let me respond to you in public, I will try to do that. When I say it's a deal breaker, if there's green goblins and glowing particles of nuclear dust on the property, then yes, it is a deal breaker. Positively said that, absolutely. But I have read the environmental phase 1, I've read the 600 some pages of the phase 2 environmental audit, and I reviewed the final report from the same engineer having an assessment. I am 98% sure there are no environmental issues on that property. I think what you have to consider is that you're commingling two categories of work. One is environmental cleanup, and the other is demolition cleanup.
No, I'm not.
If you let me finish answer your question, please. So my assessment of this is that there are no environmental hazards that have to be addressed on this property. I believe it, and I see it as a clean site. But to respond to what you're saying, I did say it's a deal breaker. So if there's green aliens and nuclear waste on that property, I'm out. The city has a much bigger problem. But I can assure you with the due diligence of the city, looking at the entire 60-some acres, they're pretty assured that the site's clean, except for a recent accident. That's the best I got. I guess the best I got.
Let's move on to the next.
I have
We got
another-
to the point
We've got, we're just spinning wheels now, so.
I have another question.
We're not answering about parks, we're answering about.
Well, I wanted to know about the water tank. Are you leaving the water tank in there?
There's the water tank as it stands right now, actually, I was considering for an alternative use, and that was a part of the stage. And I know that sounds far-fetched, but
No,
you have to
it
get
does.
between my ears and understand how that could work.
No, you could use the,
I saw that as an artistic method of repurposing for an alternative use. And
How about
I
the
know what that water
piping?
storage tank is.
the piping for all of
We have a-
the stuff.
question in the back of the
Oh,
room.
okay.
Hi, Lori Major, I'm on Kenwood Court, and the reason I came tonight was to voice an opinion about the skate park. As I'm all in favor of a skate park, I was delighted to hear the gentleman say that Heron Park would be a good place for it, and it already has the parking, because that's my concern about it being at Stephen Decatur, because one, of the parking, and also the environmental impact it takes on our limited green space over there, and the impact of what that park, what the skate park would have on the pond, on the area, and also in the park in general. And with the parking at a premium now, especially for events and other things like that, I'm concerned about there not being enough space if you put another activity out there for the people who use the park every day. So anyway, that's all. I just wanted to say that I felt as if Heron Park would be a perfect place for it.
Thank you. Any,
I'm Diane Frederick from Burley Street, and that's one of the reasons why I'm here. I would really like to see on whatever a final contract or proposal to see that skate park over there. I think the town really rallied around the purchase of the property when that skate park was proposed going in there years and years and years ago, to get the kids off the street, to get them in a safe place where, where they can be. And I don't want it across the street from my house. Just the noise factor is not wise to put it in a residential neighborhood, above and beyond everything that she said. I don't think that anyone in that surrounding area is going to be pleased with that amount of noise level. I had kids. I had a husband that was a professional skateboarder. I know the sound that skateboards make constantly. It's not enjoyable. And I work from home. That would not be good for me. Just saying.
Absolutely, absolutely, I agree with that.
anyone else?
I would love to see a skate shop at the Heron Park with a small retail component. Thank you, Sandy.
Yeah, can I comment on the stage portion?
On this, what did you say?
The stage?
Yeah.
It's part of the park.
So, yes. So after several committee meetings in the RFP, it had been stated that town was looking, they kept using the word amphitheater. And at last night's meeting, I asked that we don't use that word, because people think of Meriwether Post Pavilion or the Freeman stage. Our vision was something, a smaller stage, like the one at the Ocean Pines Yacht Club or OC Sunset Park down on South Division Street. Those are tiny little bring-a-chair venues. So when I said in my post, 20 to 200 people, it could be just 20 people show up and bring a chair, or there's chairs there provided for them, whatever. Something very simple. It might be something that's only used a couple times a year, and then the green space stays. It'll be over grass. And my vision was Children's Theater or Ocean City, the Ocean City Art Center. They have small theaters, small theater groups that come in. We just saw Gilligan's Island, the musical there, 40 people, it was sold out. Something small like that was what my vision was. And I know that like Mr. Hammond seemed to be concerned about it, thinking it was going to be a bunch of drunk people, women in tube tops, quote, shaking their boobs. That's not my vision at all, right? You said that, right? You said that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I said if the
So-
town did not, oh, you asked me what I said. I said if the town and the discussions among this group have mentioned up to 1,000 people capacity. That's in the emails that were released under the Public Information Act. I said if the town does not have a very clear idea and a clear management plan for it, that I was concerned that the alcohol industry would exert undue influence over what occurred in that venue. And I would stick by that statement.
Yeah, and we're not thinking alcohol. I mean, that would be up to the town to decide, but we were proposing that we would build the stage and donate the stage and the land to the town when they're ready to accept it. So that was our thoughts. The other thing was the garden center, which is very important to us. I'm a big gardener, and it's a passion for me. And I'm not sure why Mr. Hammond keeps telling people that I posted this on Facebook, and he said if you vote for this plan, you're voting for them to, in 7 years, tear it down, remove the garden center and build stack shacks, whatever that is. That's not our plan, that's not our vision, I assure you. I would like to see it there for 20, 30 years. We care about Berlin, we care about the people that live in Berlin, our son lives here. We're not here just to like money grab. If we were trying to make a ton of money, this would not be the project we would be doing, trust me. He's renovated 23 buildings in downtown Salisbury out of passion, taking the old buildings, repurposing them. That building that's there, those 2 buildings, they have good structure. They can be repurposed for something. Maybe we don't know what that is yet, but to tear it down and build something new, whoever your tenant is going to be paying double because it's going to be very expensive to build new construction there. To try to maybe get artists or just entrepreneurs that want to have something that they can sustain and afford, like we talked about the Torpedo Factory, that's our vision, to help the small person, not the national chains. We're not trying to be anything like any kind of national chain like the Garden Center. He mentioned earlier the Village Green, which was one of my favorite places, and a couple others. That's, to me, should be a long time thing in Berlin. So I'm not sure where it's coming from, but it's not true. That's not our goal, is to end it in 7 years and build stack shacks, whatever that is.
Any other comments from the public regarding the Heron Park discussion?
We have a couple other things. First of all, bring your attention to National Night Out is coming up over at Henry Park. It's on August the 1st and 4 to 7 p.m. We have activities planned for the little ones like we always do, and there'll be all kinds of demonstrations. So it's worth coming to. It's a very interesting little event that Chief Downey puts on every year.
The only comment that I have is that as a member of the Parks Commission, I'm listening to what people want who live in this town. The biggest thing people want is a skate park. And I just don't see how we can sell this property without knowing where that's going. I think that's the cart before the horse. We should figure out where that skate park's going. Because, you know, Decatur Park, there's a lot of opposition, and let's face it, it's next to a cemetery and a church. Residential neighborhood, the runoff isn't good, it's already crowded, it's, you know, I don't even want to go into the whole thing there, but to me, we have to, the people in Berlin want a skate park. We have to figure that out before we can sell, because that...
And there's something, an observation that's very different about this whole process that we as a Parks Commission have always done. In the past, we've asked for assistance to get a master plan. We've looked in the past at that. We've looked at all the parks. We had designs for Birch Park and what could we do with Stephen Cave Park and Henry Park. The other thing we've done in the past is we have surveyed the community. Not for a yes, no, not for a vote, but we have reached out as a Parks Commission and asked for what the community wanted with the land, where the parks. Interestingly enough, I was looking at a very old one, and I don't even know what year it was. I'm looking at Mary because it was a long time ago, if you remember. A long time ago. And that long ago, my guess is early 2000s. People were saying, please, no skate park in Stephen Decatur. And it wasn't even a question, it was like something you want to add. So that makes the job more difficult to not have those things.
And it could be that the skate park could go at the county fields, but that's a big unknown. The town doesn't own that property. If it couldn't go there, the only other place it can go really is Heron Park.
It's a blank slate.
If you'll indulge me, I'll show you exactly where it should go.
Yeah. I mean,
You get the advantage of, now that's showing up a city street, which was never our intention to have a city street. we would have public access to that location. You also see that an area reserved for an entertainment venue. And beside that, to the east of that would be where I would see a skateboard park. There are some topographical elements there that would help with the construction of that, and you would have plenty of shared impervious surface already that can be used instead of duplicating efforts. I don't want to, I'm not an expert in skate park design.
Yeah, I think we need to figure that out.
I mean, keep in mind, you're talking about a quarter of an acre. This whole park is 60-some acres.
And I would love to have a garden center, because my husband has a huge garden on Main Street. I love it.
Yeah.
I miss Village Green myself. But the people in Berlin want a skate park, and that's a priority for the Parks Commission.
Okay.
And that's why I keep mentioning it.
That's where it goes. Yield to the experts.
If you put the skate park more towards the road, I think that that would be a safer option for the kid. That's my biggest problem, is you're tucking it back away from any kind of on-site where anyone can observe what's going on. Maybe if you got it somewhere closer to where people can actually see it, and then put your commercial stuff behind it or something, that would be a way to look at it. I kind of think of senior plan, but it's the one that sticks it over by the 410, isn't it?
Most of the property on those three parcels do not front on Old Ocean City Road, so it's kind of hard because you have the proper auto repair folks.
Right.
So I guess I'm trying to speak in the microphone, but I guess I can just turn around and talk to you. But there's a building there that would have, there's a lot of land behind
Right.
Croppers and the other, and Byrne and the office building. It goes back pretty far, so it's not highly visible. We were proposing that there's a living, breathing garden center and have it contiguous to that and contiguous to the amphitheater, because that's where you can,
on the left side.
that's where you can share amenities, if you will. And a skate park is not a big water and sewer user, so you don't need water and sewer back there to that extent. Now, you need a pipe.
My biggest problem is just the fact that there's no visibility and there's no way that anyone can observe what's going on for kids.
I think that
We'll put cameras back
there
there.
are additional public uses that are of interest to many people in town, and I think that a skate park would best be integrated with other public uses for some of that land, and that should be a public planning process that cites that and decides how we want to do it, and then we ask a developer or someone else, a builder, to implement our plan for how that should be.
Thank you. Mr. Gillis, I have a question.
Sure.
How many businesses would be in this plan?
Well, I mean,
How many retails?
let me try. Well, that's way secondary to what our plans are. I mean, a retail is a skate shop for a skate park. I mean, it could be an artist that has a little booth. If you think of a t-shirt shop in a restaurant, I mean, think about that. It could be something along those lines. But in last night's proposal, we actually, yeah.
I have a memory from one of the meetings that you said 30.
30.
30, is that not right? How many?
30 retail locations?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, a retail location can be anything from 1,200 square feet to 60,000, or Walmart's 120,000 square feet. So we don't see this as a high retail usage. We see this, and we keep in mind too that another rule that I mean, I'd like to brag about 1 million square feet of repurposed buildings, but I've also done easily 2 million square feet of medical offices on the Delmarva Peninsula. I would love to put medical offices there. That's not what the town wants. It shouldn't want that. You can do that anywhere. You want something.
Right.
So as far as a retail use, if there's a corner over here that can fit a boutique, we'll try to get that. I mean, that's what we'll try to do. But it's not, keep in mind that the center of Salisbury is 1 million square feet. Tanger Outlets, which we did most of the construction of in the east portion of that, That's almost 1 million square feet when you add them all together. So this at the maximum development is 40,000 square feet. We have one user that would take 25,000 square feet. So when you say that, you can start to see that when you start taking away, there's very little exposure for retail. But what we would like to do, as an example, in the public areas, and this is an attraction. I mean, this is public art in a park. In a park.
So you're talking about retail space within the building?
Yes.
The repurposed building?
Yes.
Okay. What about in addition?
The what?
Is there any in addition to that building?
What we have shown on the drawing, yes.
I don't have a concept, I can't picture it from the
Got it.
artist.
Okay, think about Sterling, and they have a covered dining area on the outside. Or think about some of the other places you've been where they have covered outside. So the red roofs, which Carmelo doesn't want us to have because she has red roofs, and I totally agree with her, that was an artist's conception. So if we don't use red roofs, I'm sorry, but I agree with her about the red roofs. But that being said, those are covered outdoor dining areas or outdoor public areas. And the advantage of that is that it can also be pet friendly, where you bring your pets to the restaurant itself. And there are probably some people who smoke, and that might be a perfect area for them. So if you have questions on the plan, I'd love to respond to them.
If I may, the purpose or the request of the mayor and council to bring this forth before the Parks Commission was to provide them with perhaps a formal recommendation of what the vision is of the Parks Commission moving forward with the proposal. I don't think it would be fair, if I may, to ask you all, with all the information that's been presented tonight, with what's been put before you, to in 5 minutes come up with a formal recommendation.
Thank you.
So I think perhaps it would be appropriate to get back to me, to the mayor, with a more formal proposal at that time to allow you more time to take this all in.
Right.
As opposed to stating it today and then bringing it forth to the mayor.
Plus, we're
tomorrow
short,
morning. And Ms.
we've got
Duke was
not only
to
her,
attend
but a
tonight,
new
right?
member will be coming on board too,
Right.
which
So-
I assume will be pretty soon.
Okay. So would you be in agreement with that?
Yes.
At a future date, in the very near future, be ready to propose a formal recommendation to the mayor and council? Okay. Mary, do you know if they were wanting a proposal at the next mayor and council meeting, or just in general? I was kind of unclear
It
of the
was
direction
not,
that they were.
it wasn't stated
Okay.
clearly one way or the other. And I don't know that they're really looking for a recommendation or a proposal as much as a sense, a room read, so to speak. And I think that, you know, the planning commission is going to be talking about this again tomorrow night, and it will probably be a similar conversation, but we'll have some very different considerations. It's hard to say, and I think that I kind of expressed that a couple of weeks ago when it was initially raised with the council, that it's hard to ask you to do something without a clear guideline of what they're asking back. But I think that just a general sense of what you feel the conversation needs to be. Sorry.
And if you have any further questions, I'm very accessible. Mary would have my email address. Just drop me an email. Or to Sandy.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there any other parks things other than this, and anyone have questions or anything about first night out?
Any comments from you all?
Plenty of comments.
All right. Motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second? Second. All right, thank you all. Thank you.
I found a wallet. It was sitting right there.
Oh, wait a minute.
I don't know who it was, but it was a husband and
Well,
wife.
yeah.
Or a man and woman.